So this is a continuation from the previous video regarding that industry of psychology and self-development that has a kind of underlying message of there's something broken, something that needs fixing, something's not right within you, right? And when you have been in therapy, and if you've been in therapy for many years, some people have been working on themselves for decades, right? But that sense, that deep sense within you that there is something wrong, something's not right, is still there, right? And I was saying that I was questioning actually what is it that needs to be healed. So that raised the question for a few here in on the YouTube channel, and also for some of my clients, right? That what am I doing then? What am I healing? What am I meant to do, right? And let's look at that, because that sense that there is something that needs to change is really big, right? Whether this is for you in relationships, perhaps you feel like there's that constant conflict, or that you constantly feel really triggered or shamed or hurt, or maybe you are reactive and get really angry and jealous in things, and it might ruin some work, some careers, and you might get fired and things like that, not just in relationships, right? It can get us in financial really difficult situation. So whatever that is, that sense that within you, it kind of reflects on the outside, right? You get that information from the outside. Whatever is happening, whatever you feel like in your world that is not right, you reflect that within you. There must be something wrong with me, right? And we have been doing that since childhood, especially if you had some early childhood trauma, because the child cannot make sense of the world yet. They feel like if they don't receive that love and that care from caregivers, for example, or whatever has been happening in your life, if a child does not feel safe, it can't make sense. The only thing is, there must be something wrong with me. That's why this is happening, right? And this is such a deep thing. It's an underlying, it's so unconscious. We keep this undertone for me, right? My experience that there's this undertone in everything that I was doing, right? It was just there. There is something fundamentally wrong with me. And when you're asking is what is it that needs to what I need to heal then, right? Or is there something that I need to heal? Perhaps I think this is the part that we need to look at, and to be really honest with ourselves, right? This is the icky part. This is the stuff that every time I went to the therapist, it didn't matter which approach that person was doing, or healing weeks and workshops in groups and things like that, anything that I did mostly helped me to avoid looking at that within myself. It just kept me very busy in learning new approaches and new techniques, whether this is how to regulate my nervous system, right? And all these kind of things, right? Just be very curious. It doesn't matter what you learn, whether you learned how to do some breathing exercises or meditation or yoga, it doesn't matter. These things are often strategies we use to actually look at what is it about me that makes me constantly feel like there's something fundamentally wrong with me. Right? To really look at that relationship we have with ourselves. Right? Because now this is we're basically screening the environment, whatever is showing up for us, to constantly confirm the beliefs that we hold about ourselves. If I feel like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm unlovable, I'm a burden, right? So when I go out in the world at work, I constantly get feedback. I feel like I'm not appreciated, I'm not valued, and same in relationships and things like that. It plays out like this all the time. But the common denominator here is me, right? I am the one who is projecting that out all the time, because I used to have only hate for myself. I hated myself so much. I could not find anything that's right with me, right? So obviously, when someone makes you a compliment, what do? Be really honest with yourself. Are you able to actually allow that to touch your heart and feel good about yourself without actually making a compliment back or something like that? Just receiving that and feeling good. Are you able to do that? Right? If you have the level of self-hate and stuff and the critical inner voice about yourself, you most likely can't, because it doesn't match that image I have about myself. So it's rebellion. There's something wrong with that person. If that person's making me a compliment, that's how can they not see the true me? Or if they only find out who I really am, the moment they know, or see, then it's all going to fall apart. Whatever, all those stories that we create in our mind, that is what we need to look at. And I don't know whether this is so much about that we need to heal that. It's just that really honest, transparent look without any glasses, just oh yeah, that's there, right? It hurts. There's some pain, but I have the capacity to just stay with that and look at that and know where this is coming from, and that I have a choice in every moment to continue that, right? If I have so much hate for myself, and I can stay in that energy, and I can be all consumed with that hate, like I was literally, right? That it was intense, very intense, right? There's things that are like a pendulum. If you can have this extreme, the pendulum goes the other way in equal extremes, right? So if I have the capacity to hate myself so fully, I also have the capacity to love myself so fully and experience that intensity, right? You have that capacity, but are you allowing yourself to have that? Are you choosing to allow yourself to have that? Maybe it doesn't really feel like a choice, and it doesn't matter. Are you even willing to just explore that? Right? Because even that, if you feel like that this is something that is just impossible for me, you're even wasting your money going and seeing a therapist, right? Because you're just bypassing it. So you probably do the same thing as me, right? We go there, we paint some stories and pictures with stories and things about my situation in a therapy session, to avoid actually looking at this deep stuff, this ugly stuff, to hold some space for that. There's so much shame there as well, right? So much doubt about myself and so many insecurities. Actually really pause and look at that, instead of trying to chase to learn another strategy, get someone to listen, get that external validation. Can you validate yourself? Right. The thing that we need to heal perhaps is the relationship with ourselves. Can you see that? Right? Because other people out there, they can only reflect the love to me that I am willing to have, that I'm giving myself. Right? Just think back on a compliment. How open are you to actually let that compliment in? That is directly showing you how much love you are having for yourself. Right? This might be a bit confrontational to go there. It might feel really, really wrong, or it might feel like this is too overwhelming. This is too much. But again, when you can feel emotions in that intensity, whether this is hate and jealousy and anger and shame, that we've had these really intense emotions. We have the capacity to also equally experience joy and love and appreciation and all these other feelings in the same kind of magnitude. Are you willing to just have a like a glimpse at it, right? Don't have to go all in. It might feel a bit much. I don't know where you're at on this, right? So like I said, it's decades. It was decades for me, right? But it doesn't have to be that slow. You don't have to be as stubborn as I was with these kind of things, and so much resistance, right? I pushed this away. I was so convinced that I was different to everyone else, and that all these kind of stories I was telling myself, and I really believed. Right? Yeah, it's an inner job. It's an inner job. Looking at those things and trusting that you have the capacity to look at that. Obviously it's easier or nicer or more supportive initially when you have a supportive person there with you that can sit with you through that, can hold space with you. You know, especially if that person is at a higher frequency or whatever you want to call it, right? If that person has the capacity to love themselves and has a different relationship with themselves, because they can more reflect that to you and can hold that space then when you're slipping and rejecting yourself, right? Being critical with yourself, judging yourself very unfairly, right? We often judge ourselves in ways we would never judge other people for the same ways, right? What were the things you said to yourself last time you spilled a little bit of coffee or something? Let's become aware of that. What is that relationship like? And that is, I feel where the biggest shifts have been happening. It's not the other strategies and stuff like that. Yeah, they were helpful. Like I said, it was a good distraction. Some of that kept me employed and kept me going, and all these kind of things, right? And I met a lot of beautiful people along the journey, and had some really new friends and things like that, right? It wasn't, I'm not saying what I did was wrong or don't do that. If something has a pull for you and it feels like it, but this is a technique that I really like, it feels really nice to me, then go for it. But I'm just suggesting they also look at that relationship that you have with yourself, the amount of love you can give to yourself, right? Because that will shift everything. It will really shift everything for you.